Welcome back to NerdCrave. So, HappyConsoleGamer did a video about 2 days ago, I guess, where he was talking about his bucket list games. And he actually had his wife Kim on the channel, and they both kind of talked about games that they've been meaning to get to for a long time, and they just never got around to. So I thought I'd bring Kaz on here today, and we'd kind of have the same conversation and respond to Johnny and Kim in their video.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. There's a lot of games in, well, you can see your backlog here. Mine is maybe a third the size, but there's definitely a lot of games that I've wanted to get to over the years.
And some of them you probably own, like a lot of people have a big backlog of stuff that you probably own that you've always wanted to play, and it's just never been the right time, you've not been in the mood, or whatever, you get distracted by the new stuff that comes out.
Real life.
But then, there's a lot of games, like I just added Fire Emblem Path of Radiance on the GameCube into my collection in the last couple of weeks. That was in my last pickups video, and that's been a lifelong bucket list game for me. I haven't started playing it yet because I want to clear off some of the stuff I'm currently playing, but, so what are some of your bucket list games, those things that you've just always wanted to play and never got a chance to?
Well, the biggest thing for me is Pokemon. There's a few Pokemon games I haven't played, and anyone that watches my stuff knows I'm a huge Pokemon nerd.
Of course, yeah.
It's like that is part of who I am at this point. Like the bow tie I wear on my stream has Squirtle on it, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first game on my bucket list is Pokepark Wii Wonders Beyond, or Pokepark 2 Wonders Beyond.
Yeah.
This game came out a long time ago, obviously after the first Pokepark game. And I loved the first one. I rented it from Blockbuster back when that was a thing that existed. And I wanted to play the second one so badly, but it always costed ridiculous price. It was like $70, $80, wherever I could find it, Canadian. And finally I found a good price. I bought like 3 copies at that price. I was
that's how I ended up with my copy, yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, we've all got games like that, and like, how long have you owned this now and you haven't played it?
Oh, it's probably 2 or 3 years now. I haven't touched it. I keep meaning to, but
yeah, it's been a while. I actually did put it in when I got a copy from you and played like maybe the first hour or so of it, and I thought it was kind of cool as kind of an exploration style Pokemon game. It was kind of interesting. I never did finish it, but I could see how you'd want to knock that off your backlog
for sure.
So for me, some stuff that would be super obvious and. You almost get that sort of gamer shame when there's certain games that you've just never played and they're so iconic. And I was around, of course, in the N64 days. I mean, I started generations before the N64, but I never had an N64 and I never had a 3DS up until a couple of years ago when I started collecting for it. And a couple of games that were the first games I bought when I did get a 3DS, but still have never played, and that is Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D. I want to play these games so bad, but every time I pick up my 3DS, I end up getting involved in some other new game that I just picked up. Exactly, Fire Emblem. And I'm playing Kirby Planet Robobot right now, and it's like...
I've wanted to play those games. I played actually a good amount of Ocarina of Time 3D on my copy for my 3DS, but I used a walkthrough. And like Zelda games, you don't want to use a walkthrough.
The crazy thing is, like, I have like 3 different versions of these games. I also downloaded these. Well, you actually gifted me Ocarina of Time on the Wii U, and then I also have where else do I have? I think on my Wii. Is it on the Wii that I downloaded them as well? Still never played them. It's like this is like the 3rd time that I've bought these games, and I've still never played them. What do you got?
The next game I have here is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story.
Great game.
I remember seeing commercials for this, and I don't know if it would be copyright, something you could put on screen, but the commercials always made me want to play the game when I was a kid.
It's actually pretty good, and that whole Mario and Luigi like spin-off of kind of like that Paper Mario sort of
almost
idea.
The Mario RPG sort of thing.
It's pretty cool. I've played a couple hours of it, and it was pretty neat, but it's just one of those hundreds of games that I put down.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many games that you just don't have time to play. Like the 90-day challenge, I've been really good with, where you might not have been so good. But the
90-day challenge has not worked out so well for me. I basically petered out halfway through because I actually started playing some of the games that I just wanted to keep playing. And
of course,
you know.
and I totally get that. But for me, it's really worked getting to actually start games that I wouldn't have started otherwise. And I find I don't have a lot of gaming time anymore with all my editing and streaming and social life that sort of exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's one of the games that I wanted to go to. What's your next game?
Well, another, I mean, kind of controversial in the series, but I absolutely love Final Fantasy, and I have started to play Final Fantasy 13 like 3 or 4 times. I've gotten into the first 2 or 3 hours of the game. Loved it. I love it. Everybody calls it a hallway simulator or something, but I absolutely love the simplicity of just knowing that you just need to move ahead, kill an enemy, move ahead, kill an enemy. The graphics are beautiful. The story is awesome. Now, I can tell you I just started playing Final Fantasy 12 yesterday on the Switch, and I definitely like the setup of Final Fantasy 12 better than this.
Yeah.
But I still really, really want to play these. And they are backwards compatible, so I can play them on my Xbox One, but it's just a matter of, I do all my gaming on the Switch, and I wish that these would come to the Switch. I mean, we've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, why can't we get 13? It would be a perfect fit for the Switch.
It really would, and 13 is actually the first game out of what you have here that I would have put on my bucket list if you hadn't had it.
Already, yeah.
There's about 3 games in there, and that's the first set. I've played the majority of the first 2 discs of the first Final Fantasy 13 game. Yeah. And the save data got all deleted.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so now I've started it 4 times, one of those times being with the challenge. It's been...
So how far did you get when you played it on the challenge?
Well, whatever 3.5 hours in would be.
And are you gonna keep playing it? Or? Yeah?
Yeah, that's gonna be the game that sticks in the Xbox 360 until I finish it.
Yeah, okay. So what do you got next?
Next up, I have Octopath Traveler.
Again,
which is a fantastic game.
I would have put that on my list too.
There's so many games to put on the list, right?
There's something about this HD 2D style that just I absolutely love, and since they've announced Project Triangle Strategy,
which
now,
I am smitten with. I've played the demo, so many hours of it. I love it so much. And I'm so excited.
They announced that new Dragon Quest III remake in the HD beautiful 2D engine, which looks gorgeous. I really want to play this too. So how come you haven't played it?
Just time. I mean, I played a little bit of the story, and I got kind of stuck with. I think it was into the main story of the first of the female character that starts with an O, Opella.
Ophelia or something.
There we go. Yeah. I got into her story, and then I got to the part where it's kind of okay, now go around and do whatever, and I'm like, what do you mean do whatever? You're not going to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. It's actually a good concept.
I really want to play this game too, but I have heard that it is middling difficult and very long, so that's kind of put it on the shelf for me because I want to clean up some more approachable stuff. I'm working on Trials of Mana and a couple of Atelier games and stuff like that, and I just want to ease 8 and stuff like that. I want to clear that stuff off of my plate before I get into this. So, I mean, I've had a copy. You've had Octopath Traveler since launch.
Yeah, I bought it right away.
I actually just bought my copy around Christmas time. And I still haven't... I mean, I put it in the Switch just to have a look at it and played the first 30 minutes or whatever. But, yeah, absolutely agree. So, what have I got next? Okay, eeny, meeny, miny. All right. So, here's another gamer shame, confession here. I have absolutely never even touched a Mass Effect game. And I have a ton of respect for BioWare as a developer. Absolutely love Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Absolutely love a lot of the stuff that they've done. Never touched a Mass Effect game. See, I pretty much missed out on the whole Xbox 360 and PS3 generation. You had one, but I never really played games during that period of time. I only really got into games 5 or 6 years ago. So I've been playing this game of catch-up. I mean, I've seen all these great videos on YouTube, and I've looked over people's shoulders while they're playing this, and I absolutely want to play these so bad. And now they just released that Legendary collection that's all upgraded and everything. And I keep thinking, okay, I'm going to wait and see if they get it on the Switch, but I guess I could get it on the Xbox One probably, right?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, these are available on Game Pass anyway. I don't even need these physical discs because I have a Game Pass subscription. But I'd like to play that, latest and best version if I'm going to play it. So maybe I'll pick it up on the Xbox One, but then I'm going to be kicking myself if it comes out on the Switch.
Yeah, Mass Effect is another series. It's a space RPG, right?
Yeah.
And it's a game I want to get into, but I've never been into sci-fi. Like, you've tried to get me into sci-fi. And I love the concepts, and I love the stories, but I just can't get into the actual genre.
Yeah, and for me, that's what hooks me instantly. Like, when games are really heavy fantasy, I love Dragon Quest XI, don't get me wrong, but it is super traditional fantasy, like straw-roofed huts and, all that kind of stuff.
Me. I love that stuff.
When I put Final Fantasy XII in the machine yesterday, and it was a mixture of futuristic tech, like flying ships and stuff like that, mixed with medieval castles and stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever.
I think Final Fantasy XIII is probably the one exception to my whole sci-fi thing. I love 13 to the grave and back. It's one of the best.
So what do you got next?
Why don't you go with another one of your games, because you have another 4 games to show.
Well, yeah, I do have a few that I'll just go through quickly. So, Catherine, Atlas game. This game has a really cool, edgy, modern story dating situation. You're basically choosing between one Catherine and another Catherine, and one of them is haunting your dreams. And most of the game happens in your dreams, and you're basically trying to escape the wrath of your girlfriend because you cheated on her, or she thinks you did. And so that's kind of where the story's coming from, but the gameplay in this thing is so creative. It's a puzzle game.
Well,
but, you're constantly climbing, and you have to, rearrange these blocks and stuff in order to create a path to climb. And it's so much fun. The problem with this is it kicked my ass by, the 3rd level.
Yeah?
It's such a difficult game, and yes, they did release Catherine Full Body, which is the same game, basically. They added a little bit of story elements, a 3rd Catherine into the mix. But I would like to try this on the Switch, but it's so difficult, I don't know if, even on the easiest mode, this thing kicked my butt by the 3rd level.
Wow.
So, and then another game that I have tried to start twice, really loved it, and then just moved away from it, and partially because it's on my PS3, and I was having some problems with my PS3, and that is Tales of Cilia. This also has a sequel that I have, Tales of Cilia 2, and this is another one of those kind of sci-fi fantasy mixes that I really love. Action combat, really great graphics, really interesting story, and I just, for one reason or another, have never completed this game.
I've always been interested in the Tales series, but I think I've got one of the Tales games on PS4, Symphonia, I think.
Yeah.
But I've never got into them. They're definitely on my list.
So what do you got next?
The next game I have here is Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan.
Yeah.
I maybe not as big as you now, because you seem to be way more into it.
Yeah.
But I really loved the series. It was one of those games I downloaded the original Game Boy Advance game on my phone, on an emulator, and I completely...
I'm sweating.
Yeah,
these lights are hot.
But yeah, I downloaded it on my Game Boy Advance, and I beat it entirely. Super easy to me, anyway.
Yeah.
And then I saw it come out on 3DS. I downloaded the demo, and I loved it. I was so excited, and then I just never got it. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I got into Fire Emblem Three Houses now. And I'm loving that game. It's so I love the combat. I love that sort of strategy thinking.
Yeah, Fire Emblem is an amazing series, and I really want to spend more time. I haven't started Three Houses yet. I've been kind of waiting on Three Houses because I wanted to experience some of the older games before I kind of spoiled myself with the most modern version.
What's nice about Three Houses, though, is it's very different in the play style. It's kind of like... it's almost like the Breath of the Wild of Fire Emblem in the sense of there's totally different things to do. The combat works differently. There's no more triangle of axe beats sword or lance and lance beats sword and sword beats axe or whatever. Yeah. You don't have that anymore. Huh. It's just actual combat prowess and how well you know your.
I need a towel units. Or something. Jeepers. Keep talking.
Well, he's going to get a towel. So I'm going to steal one of his games, actually.
It's like next level hot in here. The landlord won't put the air conditioning on until we're literally on fire. And sitting in front of these lights, it's like, holy cow, It must be 95 degrees right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
My glasses are fogging up. So what, you're stealing one of my games, are you?
I am. You left me, so I got to steal a game.
All right.
It's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And this is one of those games that everyone says if you love Skyrim, you're going to love this game. Yeah. And I'm sure they're right. I just haven't had a reason to play it.
Yeah. You can see
that's actually what it is.
I bought this when I bought my Xbox One S last year just as something to play with it, and then I got Game Pass right away.
So you haven't touched it.
This is still sealed from like a year ago almost. I haven't even broke the seal yet, but I am definitely dying to play this game. You too, eh?
I really am. I'm going to be getting it for my PS4 if and when I decide to actually sit down and play it. Yeah. Because I want the good graphics. I could buy it for my Switch, and I typically want to buy things for Switch, but this is a game that
you
seems
really
like
want the graphics for The Witcher. That's why I bought it on Xbox One. Like I bought Resident Evil 3, which is on my bucket list too, the remake Resident Evil 3, but I don't want to play it until I can get my hands on Resident Evil 2, which has been hard to find recently, although I now have one in my Amazon wish list that I'm going to pick up this week, I think for about $20 or $25, so I can finally start playing those too.
Awesome.
So what do you got?
My final game, the final game on my bucket list, and it's another Pokemon one, XD Gale of Darkness, and if we had it as well, Colosseum. These are games that are renowned by the Pokemon community. Everyone says that you have to play them. If you haven't played them, like, you're not a true fan. Like, they're those high prestige games.
Up until the Switch existed, those were the only console versions of like real Pokemon games. Previously all Pokemon games had been handheld adventures, and I mean these are different than a standalone Pokemon game, but still to have that full Pokemon console experience and then have it be locked to the GameCube where you can't get at it.
And not only that, being like that sort of edgier, like almost more grown-up Pokemon. Yeah. It was that next level that us fans want in the Pokemon community.
And the funny thing is, you bought that for me for my birthday instead of buying it for yourself.
Yeah, well...
Hello, McFly!
You wanted it.
I don't even like Pokemon!
Hey now, that's sacrilege. Them fighting words.
Alright, my last game, and then we'll get out of here because this is starting to drag on. And that is, of course, here's looking at UFM Trooper Persona 5. And I say that because she's playing it now, and she's like 70 plus hours into this game and still going and going and going. And that's why I have never played this game. I have put it in my PlayStation and played half an hour or an hour of it a couple times. I have the PS3 version because I thought that would be maybe a little bit more approachable than the big Royal version that's even longer. And still, like, this game can easily take you well over 100 hours. And it is probably the coolest looking, most stylish, most fun JRPG in any kind of modern setting that I've ever seen. But I just don't want to invest 100 hours, man. Like, I want to, but I just, like, when am I ever going to have the time to make that kind of commitment, you know?
I've been noticing a trend. These games take a lot of time, and you don't want to put the commitment into that time.
Yep.
And I think the lesson from that is to just do them one at a time. Yeah. To just sit down and just start playing it. Yeah. That's something that I've learned that I have to do, especially with the challenge. These longer games I specifically put in the challenge, in the 90-day challenge, that I would start them, and then it'd be like, okay, I'll just play another 20 minutes of it. And the next thing I know, I'm 40 hours in.
For a game like, you take something like Ys 8 that can be beaten in like 20 to 30 hours. I'm okay with that. Like, that's, for me, if I play 45 minutes at a time, and I play, 4 or 5 times a week, I can beat that game in a couple months. Or a month and a half or something. But this would take me an entire year.
So what's the difference between that, then, and a game like Dark Orbit that you used to play for hours on end, night after night?
Well, I think the difference with something like an MMO on the computer is that those games never end, and that's, they have a different charm to them. I can play Farmville clones till the cows come home, because you know what you're getting into, and it's going to stay that same level of commitment and that same level of difficulty and that same level of interaction with other people.
So you don't want to get into the game for 100 hours and then have it just end?
Well, I don't want to get into the game, into a 100-hour game, and get 45 hours into it and get stuck by a difficulty spike and get pissed off. Like with Dark Orbit, I know that there's always something that I can do in an MMO, even if that particular dungeon or that particular enemy is too hard, I can go to an easier map and do something else. There's not this, pounding waves against the shore of, you have to move on and you have to move on and your skills have to rise. And
well played.
Well played. So, I don't know. I get intimidated by stuff where I think, Persona is not the hardest thing in the world, but it is somewhat difficult. And I'm afraid of investing 50 hours and then getting stuck. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I guess the answer is to get good.
Yeah.
But
you got to enjoy what you're playing too, right?
Most of the time I end up choosing arcade games or platformers or Metroidvanias or things like that I can beat in 10 or 15 hours, or racing games where you just get in and race for 20 minutes and you're done, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Anytime. It's been a while, actually.
It actually has, yeah. No, I'm glad to have been on here again.
All right, cool. Well,
see you later.
Absolutely.
Next time, rookies.